Right, hello everyone. Welcome back to another episode of Lit in English, Understanding Your Inner Self. Thanks for joining us on this journey. And the goal for this program is for us to have an environment where we can share all of these amazing knowledge that we have learned in English. And in that way, we will be able to share this amazing knowledge to every corner of the world. And thank you again for joining us today to another amazing episode. All right. And so, just a quick recap on what we did yesterday. So, yesterday we went over the seven holistic wealth. And the seven holistic wealth is the key. This is the way for us to ensure that we will be prepared for any challenges to come. This is how we can be proactive rather than reactive to problem. Because thanks to this amazing knowledge, we get to learn that if we were to simplify every problem in life, it will fall under four categories. That is the inner self, health, relationship, and finance. And by applying the principle of light, we learned how to light up our dark room. And similarly, we will be able to lit up the seven holistic wealth, which are wisdom, presence, virtue, nobility, capability, material, and physique. And by doing this, we will be able to lit up our house, and it is kind of like a candle. If it's if it stand by itself, then the the foot of the candle will be dark. But if we have a lot of candle together, not only the entire room is brighter, but the candle will be bright as well. And what I'm trying to say is that all of these elements, they are supporting each other, and they are all interconnected. And there is something very, very powerful about these seven holistic wealth. And we also went over the key point of how we needed to materialize the immaterial group, and we want to immaterialize the material, because this is the two worlds that we are living on. And by being conscious about it and make the conscious decision to work on it, we will be able to um, increase its value to the fullest. All right. And I also introduced how to build a skyscraper, because this house is the representation of our inner self and how we want to lit it up to have a bright inner self, and we grow it. But what I want to go toward is we can even build a skyscraper as long as our inner self is stable enough. Inner self is the key point. It is the foundation for us to build on top of. And through inner self, we will be able to build our health. We will be able to build our relationship. And once we have those stable and important element, we will be able to expand our finances. All right. And today we will move on to the next principle, which is my my probably favorite principle of all, and it is called the activation of the human brain. So let's get right to it. All right. I would like to invite you to um, get a pen and get a paper so we can We can write this together, and you will learn better by doing this. And I also hope for question. If you have a question, then that is another really good way for us to learn from each other as well. All right. So first thing first, let's write number two here down here because this will be our second principle, and this will be called activation of the human brain. All right. What do I mean by activation of human brain? And in order to understand that, I would like to bring back the seven holistic wealth. And I also would like to mention again that this is a journey that we are going together to understand our inner self. And what is our inner self exactly? Our inner self can also be defined as our inner world. And within that inner world, there are immaterial things, which are things that are not tangible, things that we can't really measure. But these are the things that can help us greatly in life. It will help us stand above our problem. And furthermore, it will help us get closer to that holistic life. And activation of the human brain will help us materialize the immaterial. We will be able to materialize wisdom. We will know what it is. We will be able to define it, and we will learn how to increase it. We will be able to materialize present, virtual, nobility. And the if the principle of light is what help us lit up our room of wisdom, our room of virtue, present, nobility, capability, material, and physique, then activation of the human brain can be seen as brightening up that light, brightening up that candle. And this we go in to use the reference system of science. And if we have anyone here major in psychology, you will know that this theory is being taught in college, and it is was made like widely popular back in the 1970s. And this model is the model that will help us understand how our brain works, the evolution of the brain, and why we behave in a certain way. And once we know how our brain works, it will be easier for us to activate the part that we desire in order to materialize wisdom, virtue, presence, nobility, which are categorized in the immaterial group. And from then, we will be able to move up to the material group like capability, material, and physique. All right. And now I would like to invite you to write the word reptilian brain right up top here. So let's do it. This is R reptilian brain. Okay. What do I mean by reptilian brain? So the theory goes that long ago, millions of years ago, when the reptile dominated the earth, and the reptile had a very tiny brain, but that very tiny brain is what helping the reptilians survive. And the way that the reptilian operate is that it operates on fear. All right, so I would like to write the word fear underneath of it. Fear. And if you notice, if you were to live in the US, there are tons of squirrel running around the street, and they are super cute because when they realize that you are kind of like looking at them, they froze, they stop. And if they see you walking toward them, they will like run and hide behind the tree, and pretty much they are just trying to stay away from you because they operate on fear. That's how they are able to survive, and fear is what kept the the reptile survive. And this is one of the dominant brain. And the second one, I would like to call it the um, the mammalian brain. All right, let's use a pink color. So this would be um, mammalian. Brain. Right. This brain is operating on love. So let's write the word love. Right. So this is very, very amazing because what the mammalian brain can do is that it can give you that boost of power to to help your loved one. Let's say I've seen this many, many times too, especially on YouTube. There would be a like a mother. She she was holding on to her child, and her husband would drive her on their moped like down the road. And I saw this video about a month ago, and there was like a truck. It was driving very reckless. It's driving really fast, and the back of the truck barely scratched the front of the family moped, but just those small impact causes the moped to lose balance, and it's it's like pretty much like God sized whip. But during that very short moment, the mother was losing balance as well as she was falling too. But what she was able to do is very amazing. She was able to cover for her child, and by some miracle chance, she was able to find the strength to pull the child away from another incoming truck. And then another amazing story that I have seen on TV was like a fire in the apartment, and as soon as the mother realized what was going on, even though she had like an injured leg, she quickly ran back to the apartment building, and she was able to get her children out within only a minute. Therefore, love is something that also providing power to the mammalian, and it is one of the main drive of the mammalian brain, which develop a level above the reptilian brain. And the third one, and by the way, this is called the triune brain theory. Tri standing for three. Therefore, we are discussing the three brain today, and you're probably gonna guess it right. The next one is the human brain. Human brain. The human brain is the most mysterious brain of all. And the reason for this is because when scientists do any research, they have to follow the code of ethics, which means that they can't just grab a person and run tests on them because that is not right. So ethically speaking, they cannot just open up a person and study their brain, but they are able to do those for the reptilian and sometimes the mammalian, and that's where the term the rat lab was coming from. And because of this fact, it's take a very long time for us to learn about the human brain. And back in the 1960s, scientists had to the only way that scientists could study about the brain is that they had to look for a patient who had brain injury, and whichever that particular injury causes challenges to the patient, then the scientist or the doctor would study that area. So, for example, let's say someone got into a car accident, and because they damaged like this part of the brain, they wasn't able to speak. But on the other hand, some other people have like an injury on a different part of the brain, and they wasn't able to talk. Therefore, the scientists had to look at thousand of cases, and they vaguely put together how each area of the brain work. And the work is just so difficult that scientists said that even though they spent a lot of time studying the brain, the human brain, they only know about 10% of what the brain does. But that quickly caught fire when it go to the media, and the media, because they want to put like a big title on it to get view. Therefore, they make an announcement, and they are saying that the human brain is so complex that, or the human brain is so powerful that we only use not even 10% of it, and people just ran with it. Okay. But later scientists they had to fix it. So they told like, hey, that's not exactly what we were saying. What we were saying is that because it is so complex, we only get to learn not even 10% of it. But even that, it holds something very powerful to it. Because one thing that we realize, which is unique about the human brain or human in general, is the ability to see future, the abilities to have vision. And the word that I would like to use is foresight, which means that we can see toward the future. And I would like to also write the word vision at the bottom. All right. And if you can recall about the six barriers, the barrier number six is lack of vision. And this is the main barrier that's kind of creating the other five. And lack of vision is super important because of the story, like the story of Mr. Roger Bannister. the success story of Donald Trump, how they was able to have the right vision. And because of that vision, they no longer have limiting belief. They no longer worry about failure. They don't worry about judgment. They don't care about lack of prerequisite nor lack of knowledge. They just know that they needed to do it. And powerful and successful people who was able to accomplish their goal, they have one thing in common, and that is having vision or having foresight. And there's a very powerful term in the world, and it's called visionary leader. Okay. So if you were to be called a leader, that is already huge. A visionary leader is a leader that can see far away. He was able to lead his group of people by kind of like elevate to a higher point so that he can observe and see which direction should they go. Should they go forward or should they make a right here and then go forward? A visionary leader is a leader that are able to see the future, to have vision, to have foresight. And we can acquire this by practicing. So even though the quote saying that the human brain is so powerful, we not even use 10% of it. So there is a half truth to it. So yes, the human brain is very, very powerful. But no, we do use like a lot of it. But at the same time, we don't quite use it consciously. We haven't really used it to its fullest capacity. And I can prove this to you because when I was in high school, I thought that I can only read about 100 words per minute. And that is about 2 words every second. And then I realized that people can do speed reading where they can read 2,000 words a minute. And that is super impressive because 2,000 words per minute, that is like 20 times faster than an average person. And the more I study, I realized that there's another technique called photo reading where people just flipping through pages and they are able to understand the entire book within like 3 to 5 minutes. And at that speed, they was able to read like 10,000 words per minute. And that is ridiculous, but it is true. And it takes practice. And my point is that through practice and through understanding, we will be able to activate the human brain. Will be able to have that foresight and we will be able to acquire the ability that might seem impossible for people who have never heard of that before. But in order to do that, we have to take a step back. We have to understand what the reptilian brain does, what the mammalian brain does, and from there we will have a better understand where the human brain coming from. Why does a brain need to evolve from the reptilian brain to the mammalian brain and then to the human brain? And I would like you to grab another piece of paper and we are going to make a presentation of how these three brains are connected. And by the way, if you have any question or if you have anything that you would like to share, feel free to raise your hand. I will I will try to see and unmute you. I can see Jasmine raise her hand here. Here, let me ask to unmute. Feel free to unmute yourself, Jasmine.
Hello, Ben. Thank you for the presentation. Could you explain to me and everybody that should we always focus on human brain, or could I know that we also have you know I know like for a long time human had the mammal brain, and then like there's a specific connection between mammal brain to our body as well. So
Right.
what should thank you.
Right. Great question. Thanks for your question. Well, this is something that I'm going to show on the next page. But your question is correct. We uh we have all three, and through our history, there's a development in this brain. So each of these brains serve a different purpose, and we have to differentiate between the three in order to use them effectively, because each of these is amazing in itself. And thanks for your question. Instead of giving you a really long answer, let me go ahead and show you what I mean on paper. So let's do this real quick. I would like to invite you to draw kind of like an ellipse shape here, and this would be the representation of the reptilian brain. Reptilian brain. Make sure we can see it. All right. Okay, so the reptilian brain, what is it good at? What is it operating on? The reptilian brain operating on fear. So most people, when they hear the word fear, they think of something negative. Some people might define fear as a negative emotion that they don't want to deal with. But reality is fear is very, very important. Specifically, fear is very, very important for our survival. And thanks, Min Hu, for that. Jasmine question is very nice. It is very, very good question. It's like straight to the point. So the reptilian brain operating on fear because it is very good at survival. Like my example of the squirrel in the U.S. or in Vietnam, we have like a tiny lizard that sometimes they run on wall, and those operating on fear, that is the reptilian brain, because they have to be able to recognize danger very quickly. The reptilian brain rather making the assumption that something is dangerous and take action rather than waiting for it and find out. Just like a squirrel. When I approach a squirrel, I don't want to hurt it. I just want to play with it. So I'm coming in with goodwill. However, as soon as the squirrel saw me coming, he ran away. And not only that, he tried to hide away from me. He don't even want to see me. And that is the way that the reptilian brain works. And this is extremely important to understand, because somewhere in the way that we are thinking, the way that our brain shaped throughout millions of years, the reptilian brain is very dominant because that is what keeps us alive. And this is the reason we have some people afraid of height, like myself. And there are people who are afraid of spider, like my brother. He just cannot stand spider. And then there are people who are afraid of snake, for example. Some people, they just don't like water. Maybe in the past they saw someone drown or something. But I know that there are some people they just don't like water, and there are people that who doesn't like height like me. And I know it was operating on fear, and and like what Jasmine asked earlier, it's not necessarily to be a bad thing. It can work in our favor. And there's an example that I want to give you. there was a very famous story of 9/11. So 9/11 is a terrorist attack on the US, particularly at the Twin Tower in New York. And just right before the terrorist attack, right before the airplane hit, there was a man. He for some reason he just didn't want to stay in the building. He feel like he just need to get out of the building. And remember this, he go to work there every single day. He had a really, really nice office there. But all of a sudden, his intuition tell him that he just need to get out of there. And he did. And because of that, he was able to survive. And then there are other cases where people just know they can just sense fear. They can sense something very, very dangerous in a situation. And because of that, they was able to get out of that bad situation. And there are tons and tons of story like that, like a bank robbery or a car accident. So fear, if we know how to use it effectively, using the reptilian brain, we would be able to to be more aware of our surrounding. And the reptilian brain is what kept us alive. And let me go ahead and write that here. The reptilian brain is very good at survival. Survival. And that's all that the reptilian brain does. And it should be important because like if you can't survive, then you can't really do anything, right? So let's go ahead and draw another eclipse shape just right beside the reptilian brain. Let's do it that big. And this is the representation of the mammalian brain. Mammalian brain. Brain is B-A-I. B-A-I brain. All right, so the mammalian brain is the brain that operate on love. Okay, before we go to the mammalian brain, I want to ask you a question. Why does the reptilian brain need to move from reptilian to mammalian according to history, right? If we can look back in history, and if we can look back in the case of the animal kingdom, why is it that the reptilian brain evolved from operate on fear, moving to love? And I purposefully draw a connection between the two brain here. So in the past, there's something happened right here that causing the brain to evolve. And this is very, very amazing. This is very, very critical. So the reptilian brain is very good at surviving, but as you already know, it is kind of hard to survive alone, right? Let's say if you were to go to the jungle right now and you are all by yourself, imagine how long will you last? What if you have two people? What if you have me with you? What if you have a whole group of people? Let's say 10 people. Now you have an army. Now you can actually go and conquer the jungle. And that's how the reptilian work too. In the beginning, the reptilian brain or the reptile, they learn how to survive by themselves, operating on fear. But then they realize that it is better to be together, to move as a group, and that can help increase their survival. And by working together to help each other survive, their brain develop, their brain grows because they have to learn how to work together. They have to learn how to love each other, how to care for one another. And slowly, the reptilian brain evolved to the mammalian brain because now it's learned how to love, it's learned how to work with one another, it's learned how to care for one another. So instead of operating on only fear, it is now operating on love. And in the distant past, the reptilian or the reptile, they struggle on survival. Therefore, you will see cases where fish would lay a billion of eggs and they just go away, right? Because it can't even like take care of itself. Like, how is it gonna be able to take care of the next generation? So instead of like human, where we only have one child or one baby or two, the reptile they would have like hundreds of thousands of eggs or million of eggs, and they don't even take care of it. They have to worry about their own survival because they operate on fear. But as it's evolved to the mammalian brain, when it's evolved to love, we notice that the mammal it had less baby, but it was able to take care of those baby. And in some cases, the family kind of live together and grow together, and the pack move together. So it's very similar to how we human grow in the group to move from the Stone Age to a society. And this is a very important connection that we need to understand because there's a development from the reptilian brain moving to the mammalian brain. And I realized this thanks to one of my best friend, my roommate John, because we were talking one day and he asked me, you know what, Ben, what do you think the purpose of life is? And that's just how we're talking, and we talk about crazy things. And and I told him that you probably love, the meaning of life is love. We uh, we are here to show love and to get love, and it is awesome to spread love. And he said, no, that is what the Disney movie is trying to tell you. But in actuality, the meaning of life there's only two, and it work across the entire ecosystem. And I see Jasmine Bro it are here too. And at that time, my friend told me that the meaning of life is all about survival and duplication or duplicate. So let me go ahead and write that down first. Duplicate. And what the word duplicate means, just pretty much you have like children, like your copy, because after you survive, you want to pass down your gene. And those are the essential, two of the very essential element of life, survival and replication. And if you look at all of the big company in the world, they make billions and billions of money because they are able to provide people the survival element and the duplicate element. Survival, real estate, for example, people make tons of money building real estate. What about food? That's survival as well. And for duplicate, funny thing is, let's think about restaurant, right? If we look at the restaurant category, $1 trillion industry, at first we might think that, oh, it is a survival needs. But then once we think more of it, we would take our girlfriend or boyfriend to dinner, right? To the restaurant. So it's kind of help people get together. Or if you go to a bar to have a nice drink, a beer or a mixed drink, in a way, it's help people to socialize, to get to know each other, to start dating, and to help with the duplicate. What about having a nice clothes, like dressing nice? How about a Rolex watch or a Gucci bag? It's definitely not helping with survival that much, but it does help with the duplicate element, because if you look like you are successful, it means that you can be a good provider. And being a good provider is great value when it's come to survival and duplicate. And the reptilian brain is very good at survival. The mammalian brain, very, very good at duplicate. And the evolution start when the reptile learned to live together, to work together to survive. It developed emotion, it developing love, and that love passing down to the children. And on that note, I would like to invite you to draw a bigger eclipse. And this is the representation of the human brain. And I'm going to ask the same question. All right. What happened here that causing the mammalian brain to evolve to the human brain? What causes it? And we got to understand this so that we can activate the human brain, right? So in history, looking back to the revolution, the reptilian brain grows thanks to love, because they learn how to live together. They learn how to survive together, and they are able to activate it, the reptilian brain. And by activating the reptilian brain, the mammalian brain was born. And the mammalian brain is very good at love, very good at emotion. But then there is something very unique happen, which activate the mammalian brain and help it grow into the human brain. And I would argue that this element right here, the connection, is love in itself. So let's go back to the previous page. When I see here the the reptilian brain work operating on fear, the mammalian brain operate on love, the human brain operate on foresight, which is future. So now that we are good with survival, we don't have to worry about survival. We don't have to worry about duplication, right? Then we started to think about the next generation. We want to we want to build an environment for the next generation, for our children. And you might hear this expression a lot. We want to let this world better than when we found it, because we want our children to have a future. We want our children to experience a version of the world that is better than how we find it. And I truly believe this is the element, the foresight, the vision that help activating the mammalian brain to the human brain. And in order to understand this fully, I would like to invite you to draw an arrow like that. And underneath, let's try to write the word information. Information. Let's see, Jasmine said here to be human. Yep, this is the development to be human. So when information come to us, like you are listening to what I'm hearing right now, the information from your surrounding, when information come to us, it has to go through the reptilian brain first. It has to figure out if this information is good for survival or not. And almost instantly is activated fear. And this is one of the reasons for the 6 barriers. When you think of an idea, usually it must be a very, very important idea, a very, very good idea for it to occur in your mind. But because of fear, because of the reptilian brain, because it had to make sure that we can survive in order to do anything else, therefore the information have to go through the reptilian brain first. And if the information is good for survival, then that information continue to move to the mammalian brain. And the mammalian brain is the one that operating on love. And here's what is becoming interesting. Even though we use the word love, what we really wanted to say is emotion. Let's write the word emotion here. Because that's what developed from the reptilian brain to the mammalian brain. Therefore, information, when it's entered the mammalian brain, it has to make the distinction that is this emotion positive or is it emotion negative? Because the mammalian brain is still largely influenced by the reptilian brain. Therefore, if the emotion is negative, then this information get rolled back to the reptilian brain because it was operating on fear. Negative emotion is related to fear. So that going right back to the reptilian brain. So therefore, if you want to be able to receive the information, you have to be able to live a very positive life, to have a positive outlook so that you can activate positive emotion. And if the information coming through here help bring up the positive emotion, let's write the word positive right underneath. If this is positive, then that information will then get entered to the human brain. And I want to focus more on this very, very quickly. Positive emotion, so that the information can remain at the mammalian brain. And I want to make the distinction because for millions of years, we live in the wild, like the reptile or the mammal, we most of the time we have to fear for our life, and that is how we survive. And even though the mammalian brain developing love, it also realized that it has to be able to use its strength to recognize danger. Therefore, negative emotion help them do that. But nowadays, we are living a world dominated by human, and we live in a very, very safe world. We are getting the help from our family. We are getting help from our friends, our community, even our city, our country. The entire world is helping each other to survive. And realistically speaking, we no longer have to fear as much as how we were before. And knowing that, we shouldn't have any reason to have a negative emotion, because when negative emotion happen, it's kick the information right back to fear. And sadly, most people they live in fear. They get stuck in survival. They always worry about how to make enough money for that car payment, for that house main payment, even when their life is very, very beautiful. They still operating on fear because that is the only way they know how to live. And I'm telling you this, I'm telling you that you can choose to live a happy life. You can choose love. You can choose positive emotion. And it might be strange at first, but if you can do it often enough, you will be able to allowing information get past the reptilian brain. You will be able to get that information past the mammalian brain, and it will enter the human brain, and it will materialize something very, very, very important, very unique. And that is vision. So let's use the example of the parent and the children. The parent, they love their children very, very much. And that is a positive emotion. And from the love for their children, they often have a vision of how great their children will be, how amazing the world will be for the next generation. And through this vision, they are able to activating the human brain to grow it to a greater level. And we are accomplishing this by we are getting to this by beating ourselves in fear, right? We we no longer fear. We take back control of our life. And Jasmine said that is it related to the vision from the sixth barrier? Yes, it did. And I did mention this earlier too. And thanks for reminding me this, because this is what I want to connect it back to. Because once we can activate the vision, the human brain to get to the vision, we automatically break through the barrier lack of vision. And if we can break through the lack of vision, it is very simple to break through the remaining five. And instead of living in fear, we live in positive emotion. We are living a very happy life, a life where we don't have to worry about our survival, a life where we have hope for our duplication, for our children and grandchildren, and for the many great things that we will be able to create to materialize. And on that note, I want to share with you one of my favorite quote. And the quote read that everything in the world created twice, once in your mind and once in the world. And this is very, very powerful because it is very much true because whatever you believe in your mind, it will come true. And there are so many research studies that have been done about this. And even though they can't quite prove it, we just know for it to be true. And there's a placebo effect. And I'm just going to read it. I'm going to share it very quickly because we are running out of time. I can go more into detail tomorrow because I do want to keep the presentation within 1 hour. But the placebo effect is something very, very interesting because back in World War II, when a lot of soldier need their medication to help with their pain, and they just simply don't have enough antibacterial or medication to help with the soldier, and the doctor have to give them like a cup of water that look like medication that has been mixed on there, like a pain reliever, where they can just drink the glass of water and there's medication in there. But instead of an actual medication, the doctor just mix some kind of powder and sugary drink in there and give it to the soldier so that he doesn't get like too many complaints. But strangely enough, he realized that the soldier who take the sugar drink get the same result, if not better, than the soldier that was given the real medication. And then later, they did a research study on this, and they realized that the patient truly believe in the medication, and some of them who really believe that this medication will help them heal, it will help them get better, and because they believe in it so strong in their mind, they are able to materialize it in the world. And this is super, super powerful because if you really think about this, everything that we feel, okay, like our touch, we can smell, we can hear, we can see, all of it, all of our senses are just information that get processed by our brain. Therefore, the brain is something very, very powerful. And there are a ton of research studies that showing this. And one research study that I recently heard of said that the people who practice playing piano was able to activate a part of their brain. And the group that practicing playing the piano in the head, like they're not playing actually in like not physically, but they practice playing the piano in their mind in the same like amount of time like the people who practice on the piano for real, and they see the same result, they see the same activation in the brain by scanning the brain. And that is fascinating because it is true that everything that you believe in your brain, you are able to materialize it. And and if you can master survival, if you no longer have unnecessary fear, if you can master positive emotion, you will be able to attract even more positive emotion, which will give you positive vision. And that positive vision is what help materialize the desired world that you want to live in. And this is the reason if any of us here have ever went to a workshop where they tell you, you know what, don't worry if you don't have money right now. I want you to write down 5 things that you want to accomplish in the next 5 years. And my mom did this study too. She was going to the workshop, and she was telling me this about 22 years ago in 2001 when she started her job as an insurance broker. At that time, we didn't have a lot of money, but my mom was given a free workshop, and in that workshop, she was told to write down the material thing that she want, and she wrote down that she wanted to have a nice house, she wanted to have like a car. Most people were riding moped in Vietnam back then, but she wrote out that she wanted to own a car. She wrote out that she wanted to be able to send her children to study abroad. And all three of that goal came true. Prior to that job, prior to writing that down, I remember her income was only, I think, $20 or $30 a month. So materialized though, um, material like houses, car, and sending her children to go study abroad, it was a fairy tale. But because the fact that she built up on top of that positive emotion where she no longer allowed fear to take control of her life, and she practicing it, she working on improving that vision, materialize that vision, that positive vision, and write that down. She was able to materialize it in her mind, and over time she was able to have it. And this is the power of activating the human brain. And similar to the first two, I'm sure we are constantly, I'm sure we are constantly evolving. And just like the reptilian brain and the mammalian brain, we have to activate it. We have to do something to activate our human brain. And that will help us evolve. And that will help us master and accomplish something very, very amazing. Because if you look at the reptilian brain, when the reptile learn how to survive together, when they learn how to live together, they was able to master survival. They were able to master their fear, and they develop love. They develop positive emotion. And for the mammalian brain, when they master positive emotion, when they when they master survival and duplication, they are able to activate that part of their brain so that it can evolve to something bigger, to something greater. It was evolved to the human brain where we have vision, where we work toward the future, where we think of amazing innovation to help us even better at survival, even better at duplication. And we are already here. We are already human. And it is important to live as a human because somewhere out there, I feel like a lot of people, they are still live as a using the mammalian brain where they constantly live in fear, constantly live in negative emotion. Many of us even still struggling with survival. We still have war out there. But you know what? We are human. And we have to remember to live using the gift, the biggest gift that we have as a human being, to use our vision and activate the human brain. So right before I go, I would like to write down the formula of how to activate the human brain. And tomorrow, when we come back, we will discuss more about how to activate the human brain. And I don't know about you, but I am super excited when I talk about this. It's like I'm opening a new door. But the formula to activating the human brain is we we want to start with a lesson. We have to be able to learn new lesson, to learn new experience. I would like to write the word lesson here. Okay. Lessons. So every day we can learn something new, and that activating the human brain. So let's write the word new lesson here. And that lesson, we had to have some kind of application to it of how like the mammal, they learn to live together, or the reptilian, they learn how to live together to have that development. So through lesson, we have deep understanding. So let's write the word deep. Understanding. Understanding. And this is about application. And if we constantly have new lesson and we understand it deeply, apply it, then we will acquire a state of enlightenment. And like enlightenment. And this is when we find the answer to it. And this is the formula, okay? New lessons, deep understanding with application, and then we become enlightenment with answer. And let me demonstrate how important this is very quickly, and we end on that note. Okay. What is the enlightenment for the reptilian brain? What is that answer? The answer that the reptilian or the reptile found out is that they learn to live together so that they can master survival, so they no longer have to feel fear. What about the mammalian brain? Where is their enlightenment? What is their answer? The answer is they have to avoid negative emotion because they have already mastered survival. They don't have to worry about negative emotion anymore. They don't have to worry about fear. Therefore, if they learn to live positively, if they can focus on that positive energy, they will be able to activate the human brain to grow them. I'm sorry, to activate their mammalian brain to get to that human brain, and that is the answer. Similarly, the way that we activating the human brain to activating this part right here, all we have to do each day, we need to think of a new lesson where we can have where we understand it deeply and we can apply it and will become enlightenment. We will find the answer for it. And we are like 10 minutes uh, like went over time. But if anybody have any question at all, feel free to raise your hand. If not, I promise you we will continue tomorrow. We will dive a little bit deeper to on this topic. And then I will also would like to introduce the circle of knowledge because one, we know how to activate the human brain, to activate our brain. We will be able to expand our knowledge and we will be able to materialize that seven holistic wealth to have that holistic life. All right. And yeah, I would like to thank you so much for joining me for another wonderful presentation. And I'm looking forward to see you tomorrow.